What's going on, Internet? I'm Christopher Peterson. You're listening to a Nerd EXP interview. I'm hanging out with Carter McBee.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So Carter is with Motiga Inc. And is developing Gigantic. So just kind of, what's kind of your background for people breaking into the industry? What's your take on how to get in, and how'd you get in with Motiga yourself?
So my title at Motiga is gameplay designer, and at Motiga we have kind of a smallish design team as far as for the scale of game that we're trying to make. So everyone kind of does a little bit of everything. I do gameplay design, but I also do all sorts of stuff from like the matchmaking in the game to the social systems in the game and kind of all the metagame stuff. I've been in the industry for about, it's been, I guess, over 10 years now. I started out in QA, doing game testing, finding bugs, writing them up, all that good stuff. And then from there, I kind of worked my way into design, and that's what I've been doing for the past 8 years or so now. So I've been doing mostly gameplay design, some level design as well, but really I've kind of done everything design related. As far as how I joined Motiga, it was mostly through friends that I had worked with in the past who already worked here. I had actually 3 or 4 people who I'd worked with in the past who were working at Motiga at the time that were telling me, hey, this place is awesome, you should come check us out. And then I did, and I've been here for almost 2 years now.
Man, congratulations, good for you. I know a lot of people get into QA hoping to get into the design side of things. So,
yeah.
Do you think that helped you, or do you think or were you already training yourself and doing design work on the side, and that just happened to be what you were doing before you got into it?
Both, actually. I got into QA because I knew I wanted to make games in some capacity. I didn't know exactly what the roles were as far as like what do designers actually do, like that sort of thing. I was a little naive to that but I knew I wanted to make games. Even back like say 10 years ago when I first started, like there were a lot less courses like colleges that were doing actual design stuff. There were some programming, game programming courses and programs and everything, and I was looking at those, kind of considering it, but I wasn't sure I wanted to do programming. There were very few actual like programs that focused on game design, and so I thought that QA would be a good gateway to at least kind of get my feet wet, figure out what the industry is all about, and figure out what the roles are, what they do, and what I would like to do. So I would definitely recommend it as a path to get in, because really it's all about getting in and starting to see what it's like to make games.
Sure, and you guys are making a great game right now. Looks like Gigantic. Had a great presence on the Xbox Microsoft E3 showcase.
Yep.
But for people who've never heard of it, what's kind of the high-level overview or the pitch?
Yeah, so Gigantic is a 5-on-5 competitive action game from a high level. It's third person. You choose a hero, you jump into the game, and it's all about PvP combat. So it's a mix of kind of a shooter and a little bit of action brawler mechanics kind of mixed into one game. And like I said, it's online only, it's PvP only. Although we will have some more stuff that you can do outside the game that's a little more single player focused, but the main game is 5-on-5 PvP action.
Yeah, and as part of that 5-on-5 action, each side is developing a meter to get their own giant monster into combat and kind of swing that tide of battle, and then either let that monster go on the rampage or kind of sit back and try and defend it so that way it can do as much damage as possible.
Yeah, so that's kind of where the name Gigantic ties in, is to the Guardians, which are your big boss creatures. So each team has one of those. Like you said, what you're trying to do is power yours up, make him rampage across the map. He knocks over the enemy's guardian, and then the enemy's guardian, it exposes his heart. That's like his weak point. That's when you can go in and do damage to him. Their guardian gets back up, and you kind of trade back and forth. And basically, whoever kills the other team's guardian wins. That's the main objective of the game. So you're kind of fighting these guardians, but you're also fighting against the other players as well, the other heroes.
So how important is the guardian to combat? Are all the guardians kind of the same and they're just aesthetically different, or is one more tanky and one's more stealthy or mage-like?
Right. So right now we have 2 guardians, the Naga and the Griffin. Those are the ones that you'll see if you go onto the website or check out any of the trailers or anything. But we are in the process of making more. They take a lot of work to make. They're very resource intensive as far as our end. As far as the gameplay itself, they do fight you. They fight differently. Like they have their own suite of attacks. What we've tried to do is, at least for now, keep them more or less similar as far as their stats go, because the game is, it's very focused around balance. So if one of the guardians is out of balance, it can really screw up the balance for the whole game. So we're trying to keep them very balanced with each other. So there are definitely differences between them, but they kind of behave more or less the same. But one of the things that we want to do as we go forward is kind of push each guardian to be as different as they can while maintaining that balance.
Sure. You kind of mentioned the guardians being resource heavy. Are they more resource heavy than playable characters?
Oh yes, by far.
Is that just due to the size and scope of them, or just kind of even like the animations and the AI it takes to get them to work properly?
Yeah, all of the above. Yeah, they're so big that, kind of everything they do, like even the basic animations that they do, they take a lot longer. Just the level of detail that has to go into it. Like if you have a character who does a certain animation, that you can usually throw together something quick and it'll look okay. But if you try to throw something on this giant creature that doesn't look right, it just kind of throws off everything. And just the amount of interaction that they have, not just with the players, but with the environment as well. Because they're so big, when they go across the map, they actually will interact with the environment. They'll kind of perch up on pillars and all this. They'll destroy parts of the map, and all that stuff takes a lot of work.
So the maps, are the maps different in a sense of, like, one you might have, I'm making this up, like a lava map or an underwater map, and like it requires a different strategy, or are the different maps more cosmetic differences?
Yeah, so the way our game works is we have the one standard game mode, which is Guardian versus Guardian 5-on-5 PvP, and that is the game mode. That's what we build around, but at the same time, the maps are what kind of adds flavor to the game. So each map does play differently, even though the objectives are the same. They play dramatically differently. So right now we have 3 maps that we're working on, although we plan on increasing that as we go. But 2 of the maps, the ones that have been around for the longest, one of them is kind of like the smallest map that we would ever make, and one of them is kind of the biggest map that we would ever make. And so they play dramatically differently. If you look into any of the videos or anything, you'll see a lot of them take place on the Canyon map, which is kind of our smaller, more straightforward map. We expect that to be more team fight oriented, and then we have our bigger map, which is the temple map that you'll see. Which is bigger, more spread out. There are more paths to go down. You can kind of go off on your own or with 2 people, and it's more about the smaller skirmishes. So it does change the way that the game is played to some extent.
Yeah, so one of the features that's kind of touted on the website, and you kind of mentioned, like, in the skirmishes, is that some of the characters are more fighting-like, and some are more RPG, and some feel more like a MOBA. That sounds extremely difficult to balance with so many variables.
Yeah, It is, and but it's also one of the things that's really exciting about the game is that we can pull people in from different gaming backgrounds and have them find a character that fits for them. So we have a character who is quite literally a sniper character in the same game as a big tanky melee guy who has no ranged attacks at all. And that is difficult to balance, but it's also the core of the gameplay, and what makes it fun is that you can throw these dramatically different characters into the same arena and have it work out. So it's definitely one of the reasons why it takes a lot of time and energy to, for example, make a new map, is because we have to make sure that the maps work for all the different characters and make sure that the sniper doesn't dominate this map, or that melee characters can't dominate this map by using the terrain to their advantage. All that stuff goes into not just the maps, but also the skill design, all the stats, all the balance numbers, all that stuff.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned the different characters, and they look radically different, and I kind of get almost a comic booky feel in the sense of you have this sniper or this giant beast or this more agile looking guy with a fox sidekick, but they all still look good together. Kind of like how in comic book world you'll have an alien and a sea creature, and just kind of mismatched. People who from different worlds but kind of come together and still keep that similar aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the great things about our art style, is that it lends itself to all sorts of different characters. So, when we're coming up with a new hero, basically there are no restrictions. Like, the world is what it is because you can look at it and see, like, would this character fit into this world? And the great thing about it is our world is so kind of open, fun, inviting, that any sort of character we can make it fit into that world, and that's a testament to our art team.
So with those characters, last time I checked, it looked like you guys were at 16. Is that going to be close to the day one count?
Yeah, so 16 is the number that we have right now in alpha. So we're in alpha right now. The game is going into beta this August. And that's how many characters there'll be at beta. And then kind of slowly we'll be adding to that number as we go. So it is a free-to-play game, so we expect to be adding heroes anywhere from closed or open beta onward for hopefully several years.
For people out there listening who are interested in joining the beta, is there an avenue that they can sign up?
Yeah, definitely. You can just go to our website, which is gogigantic.com, and the beta sign up page should be fairly easy to find. I actually haven't looked at the website in a little bit, but it should be on there and pretty prominent as far as I know.
All right, perfect. So we talked about a lot of the characters involved in the matches. Is there an estimate of how long a match takes? Are we looking at 10 minutes or half an hour, or can it go back and forth in theory forever?
Yeah, so typically games last around 15 minutes. That's kind of the number that we shoot for, but it kind of depends on how you're playing. If it's a really close game and teams are being a little bit more conservative as far as when they attack the enemy guardian versus when they pull back, games can go up to 20, 25 minutes. Potentially up to about a half hour, but that would be like the extreme long game. Like a half-hour game would be a really long game in our game.
So for playing, is the meta currently, and I know you're in alpha, balanced? Like, do you see teams that just kind of like Zerg rush doing better than teams that are kind of a little slow and methodical? Or is it better to have that planning and procedural and move together as a unit?
Right. The meta for our game, like you said, it's alpha, so it's still very, very much up in the air, kind of. But one of the things that makes the game cool is that various strategies can be effective if you execute them properly. For example, you can take a full team of melee heroes, and still, as long as you play around the fact that you have 5 melee heroes, you can still be effective. And so, the meta will kind of shape out. I'm sure there will be some dominant strategies that evolve eventually, but we expect it to be kind of an evolving thing where, one team does really well with this certain lineup or this certain play style, and then somebody else kind of finds a good counter to that, and then that becomes the thing, and hopefully it just continues to evolve like that.
So, and like I said, I know you guys are in alpha, but for that evolution and kind of balancing, are you gonna sit back and let the community figure it out, or if you do see, your melee character being picked 90% of the time, maybe looking to figure it out if a nerf is involved, or kind of a balancing of the characters altogether?
Right. The way we do that is we take feedback from all sorts of places. So we have kind of, I would say, 4 main places that we get our feedback as far as balance goes. One is that internally in the studio we play the game every day. So every day at 4 o'clock, whoever is available jumps into the queue, and we start playing. We play usually a couple of games at least. And so after each playtest, anyone on the team can jump on to, so we have like this little blog post that we do that's like, here's all the changes for today, here's what you're going to be playing, and then below that everyone can add their comments, like this character seemed ridiculous, whatever. They can complain, they can say whatever they want, and then we look at that feedback and see if there are anything from there that we want to address, and we do new builds every day internally. So literally the next day, we'll take whatever changes that we made and we'll play them again. And so that's one way. And then, of course, we have our alpha environment, which they receive new builds generally once a month. So that kind of gives us like the snapshot of where we're at. And we take all the feedback from that as far as making kind of those bigger changes that aren't the day-to-day changes that we would be making. And then we have, in addition to that, we have what we call our core test environment, which is kind of like our more hardcore players, people who are really familiar with the game, people who are better than we are for the most part. And it can get pretty bad. Like when we first opened that up, we were able to hang with them. We were actually crushing them for about maybe 2 weeks, and then as they got more and more access to the game, they just kind of steamroll us at this point. But we have feedback from them on kind of the more high-end competitive play, as well as like you mentioned, we have our 4th thing, which is kind of the data analysis, where we can look at things. So, we could look at our internal playtests for the day, look at a certain game, and be like, okay, here's what happened in that game. Or we can kind of take things from a higher level, like look at the alpha environment and say, like, okay, this certain hero is winning games 80% of the time, so something must be wrong here. And then we can kind of dig into it from that angle as well. So lots of different places to get our balance changes and feedback from.
Yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like you guys are definitely being thorough. So I think when that beta comes out in the full game, people will be able to get a really tight, polished experience. Yep. So you did mention it's free to play, but free to play games typically do have some sort of microtransaction involved. How is Gigantic going to kind of be monetized? Cosmetic items, character skins, or will only some characters be free on a rotation basis?
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things we haven't actually announced anything on yet. Although, it is a free-to-play game. We will be selling cosmetic items, and, there are definitely models out there that prove that you can make a free-to-play game, still sell things, and not have it be pay-to-win. When we do announce that stuff, like, I wouldn't expect anything completely different or groundbreaking as far as that goes. We want the gameplay to speak for itself and have things kind of revolve around the game itself.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's definitely the most consumer-friendly version and what people seem to adapt to the best.
Yeah, and we will be announcing kind of our monetization stuff. I don't think it'll be much longer. Might be somewhere around when the closed beta starts. I'm not sure exactly when, but it'll be not too long from now.
So Gigantic is coming out on Xbox One and Windows 10.
Hmm.
Are those going to release simultaneously, or is one going to be out before the other?
They're actually going into closed beta at the same time. So this August, we don't know the exact date in August yet, but in August it'll be available for closed beta on Xbox One and Windows 10, and then we expect them to release at the same time as well, whenever that is.
Will these versions be cross-platform? Can you play with your buddy on an Xbox One if you're on a Windows 10?
Yes. So the current thinking with that is that it will be an option. However, you would have to opt into it, and we don't know quite exactly what that means yet. There's still a lot of discussions and testing to be had there, but the current thinking is that you would never go, as a keyboard and mouse player, you would never jump into a game and play against someone who's playing with a controller unless you specifically said that you were okay with that, and vice versa.
Sure, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You guys are in pretty uncharted territories. There's not a lot of games that are currently doing this, so
Exactly.
you'll be potentially setting the trend.
Yeah. But what I will say is that our game does play very well with the controller. We started out before our partnership with Microsoft as a PC game, knowing that someday this game would work pretty well on the controller because it has the movement is very fluid. It doesn't have a ton of different abilities or things that you would have trouble putting onto a controller. And what we found was it actually does work really well on a controller because when we did partner with Microsoft, of course, it was like, hey, let's make this dual platform, and we're like, okay, cool. And it was literally, I think, 3 months from having nothing at all to do with console to the game was actually running on a Xbox One. And then from there, we were actually able to get the controls working for it in a matter of a couple of weeks. And it actually does play pretty well on either input method. In fact, we have some players who prefer to play on the controller as opposed to, even when they're playing in our internal playtests. Of course, we support both input methods, and some players internally will actually prefer to play on a controller even against people on mouse and keyboard. So it's working out pretty well so far.
Yeah, I would think that would maybe depend on the type of character that you choose.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I would think like characters like the sniper character that I talked about earlier, Imani. Those are probably going to be a lot easier to play on a mouse and keyboard. But there are characters, like the Margrave, who was the tanky guy that I was talking about, who do play, I would say, equally well. It comes down to preference as far as mouse and keyboard versus controller. So you're right, it does come down to which hero you're playing.
So for you, what's kind of been the most rewarding aspect of working on Gigantic?
I would say the most rewarding thing is what I talked about earlier, which is that we're constantly playing our own product. In the past, I've worked on games. When you work on like a single player game or something like that, it can be tough to get people, even in the studio, because everyone's so busy. It can be tough to drag people away from their desks. Like, hey, you want to play this thing that we're making, that we're working on? And people are like, I'm kind of busy right now, blah blah. And so it can be unreasonably tough to kind of get people to experience what you're making, and that kind of makes it tough to develop for, because you never have that feedback loop. And that's what's been really rewarding about working on Gigantic, is that from the day I started here, we've played the game almost every day internally. There are times when stuff is broken and we can't do a playtest, but I would say 9 times out of 10 we're playing the game. And so to see the game just constantly get better and better as we go, and have the whole team see that as well, it just kind of drives everyone to make the game better. Because when you get in there and you notice something is broken that you can fix, then you're going to want to, as soon as you're done playing, immediately go in there and fix it. And that's what makes the game develop so rapidly, is that everyone's kind of bought into that. So that's what's been really exciting about it.
Sure, that makes the 4 o'clock playtime seem brilliant now. because then you'll be done playing around 4:45, and you're like, I'll stay for a little bit longer to fix this real quick.
Exactly. Yep, I do that all the time.
I have a question from user MK1982 on my AGN. He wants to know how you plan to encourage a positive and supportive community, which is critical for team-based games such as this.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, that's one of the things that we've tried to do from the very beginning. We're actually a very community-focused company, and we hope to make a very community-focused game because, it is a competitive game, so people do get competitive, and in a lot of games, and we're not so naive to think that it'll never happen in our game either, but there is that kind of, that toxicity that you hear about, or that you experience if you play it. And we're trying to prevent that as much as possible. So when I said we're a very community-focused studio, we actually involve them a lot. For example, when we go to trade shows like PAX or E3 or even GDC, we bring along community members, people who are not employed by Motiga, who are just part of our community, who are in the alpha, who really love the game and they're really passionate about it. We actually fly them out, give them a hotel room, and they work the floor for us. So we have this, our setup with however many machines running, and we actually have them coaching the players. And we're not involved in that at all. Like most of the time, we'll be up in the kind of the press area talking to the press, and we leave the everything else run by our community. And so, in that way, we're constantly kind of taking the community's feedback very much to heart. So we're constantly trying to avoid that kind of that toxic mentality that people get when they play the game. But also a lot of it comes down to the way that the game is designed. One of the things about the game that's always been the case is that, in a lot of competitive games, it'll be the case where the game starts, it goes for a little bit, and let's say 5 minutes into the game, pretty much everyone in the game knows who's going to win. But the game plays out for another half an hour. And really all that can happen in that time is people just getting angry. And that's one of the things that we've tried to prevent from a gameplay standpoint is, there are going to be games where one team is just going to win. Like, they're better, no matter how good we can make the matchmaking, just so many variables happen, like, okay, this team is just better than the other team, or this team just executed so much better. And what we want to is reduce the amount of time between the game is effectively over, we know who's going to win, and the actual end of the game. So we have a lot of gameplay mechanics that kind of help drive that forward. And the flip side to that is that we want to encourage a dramatic reversal, is what we call it. But we want to encourage basically the fact that you always feel like you have a chance to come back. So, if you're getting crushed and there's no way you're ever going to come back, it happens occasionally, the game will just end very quickly. We have games that end in 7 minutes when teams are bad or whatever happens. But at the same time, we have these games where it looks like it's going to be a steamroll, but because of the game mechanics, it's actually always possible to come back. And the way we do that is with our system. So, in a traditional MOBA, that there can be items, gold, whatever. As the game goes on, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. And so naturally, the team who's winning is not only going to have been winning, but they're also going to be statistically just way better than you. So not only, in order to come back, not only do you have to outplay them, we also have to work against this kind of inherent disadvantage that you've built up. And with our game, we don't have items, we don't have money, we do have experience, but the levels go from 1 to 10, so you're generally not behind in levels by more than 1 or 2 at any given time. And it really comes down to as long as you outplay them, you have a chance to come back. So that kind of helps keep the toxicity out of it a little bit, because it's always that, like, okay, if we got our stuff together, we can still win this game. And so it becomes more of a rallying mechanic as opposed to, we lost because you died 5 times and fed this guy, and now he has this item that's going to murder me, and there's nothing I can do about it, and I hate you.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I mean, you brought up a great point, and something that I've never thought of, I guess, because I'm a player, not a designer. But you're absolutely right about that. I'm gonna lose this match already. I'm down. We're down 10-2, but the kill count has to hit 50. I guess we're just gonna trudge through this because I don't want to be a quitter.
Yep.
So that sounds great that you kind of have sounds like almost mercy clause in there to maybe rematch with a more balanced team. So that sounds fantastic, and I think players will definitely enjoy that kind of feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
So last couple questions. From your aspect, what do you think people are going to enjoy most when they start playing Gigantic?
That's a very good question. Hopefully a lot, but I would say the first thing that you're going to gravitate towards, aside from the beautiful art style of the game and just it looks great from my biased opinion, but I think we've gotten enough feedback from people that they like the way it looks. But aside from that, when you jump into the game, it feels very fluid. You know, if you're familiar with any sort of if you're playing on PC, if you're familiar with any sort of WASD controlled action game or shooter or anything, you're gonna feel like you know what you're doing. You're gonna feel like you know how to play, you know how to move around. The skills themselves, you know, there's 5 per hero, and they're all kind of very accessible. You know, they read very well. So when you do something, you know what just happened. There's that good feedback. So it's very easy to jump into the game and kind of learn very quickly what's going on, and you can have fun within. You know, we don't have, for example, we don't have any sort of tutorial right now, which we're working on right now. We'll have hopefully have it ready by the time closed beta happens. But right now we don't have any sort of tutorial. But we're still finding that people, when they come to trade shows or even when they're in the alpha, you know, their first game or two, they're still getting in and having fun, even though they don't know how the game works or anything, because it's very easy to pick up and play. But at the same time, we wanted to build depth into it. So, you know, it's not just a very simple, straightforward game. It's very accessible in that you can get in and know what you're doing, but there's also a lot more to learn as you go. But that learning process is fun because it's fun from its core in terms of the movement, the abilities, the fluidity of the environment. Kind of, you can, everywhere you see, you can get to, that sort of thing.
That sounds great. I mean, you have a chance to play the game every day.
Yep.
Who's your favorite character in the lineup so far?
That's a good question. So, because part of my job is balancing the game, I tend to try not to pick favorites as much as possible. At least from a gameplay standpoint. From an artistic standpoint, I tend to gravitate towards the more playful characters. So we have a character called Mozo. She's a little goblin who her thing is that she wasn't very good at magic, so she went and stole a bunch of wands from someone who was good at magic, and now she's trying them out. So that's kind of her theme, like the backstory to her. But it really comes across, like, even though we don't necessarily explain any of that, it comes across in the art style. Like, you'll see her running around. She's got this little backpack full of wands that's jumping around. She's got like a wand on her tail. And just the way that she animates, the way that she moves around, it's very chaotic when she's casting her spells, but it works really well in the game. So, you know, that's one example. I love all the characters, so it's tough to pick a favorite, but I tend to gravitate towards the kind of more playful, more unique styled characters.
They're your children. You love them all equally.
Exactly.
The community seems to really have gotten behind Voden. I've seen a lot of fan art and just kind of more videos of him, I think, than any other character, so...
Yeah, he's really cool as well. And that's another example of kind of a character who's fun to watch. Like, you know, you could know nothing about the game, load up a video and watch him kind of run around and use his abilities, and it's just fun to watch. Which is another cool thing about the game is, as we've found, you know, especially as we're working on it, a lot of times we're watching other people play it. And what we found is it's actually really fun for us to sit back and just watch other people play it, because of how just fluid everything looks, how well everything kind of reads, and the playful nature of just watching people run around is fun.
So, man, that sounds great. Thank you for your insight into game development, into Gigantic. The beta, if you're out there listening, is available in August. If it's well past August, go pick up the real game. It's free to play, so just jump in and give it a few rounds and see if it's your cup of tea or not. I can't believe I said cup of tea. To see if it's a game that you enjoy, and there's a lot of different players, so if you don't like the melee, try the sniper. If you don't like the sniper, try some of the more fighter style or the first-person shooter. Carter, is there anything else that you'd like to call out?
I think you pretty much said it. Yeah, check out our website, gogigantic.com. You can find not only the sign up for the beta, but there's a lot of other cool stuff on there. Like, you can learn a lot more about the heroes. We have all their skills listed. We have the whole lineup of all the heroes that we have so far, so you can go watch little clips of them, see their abilities in action, kind of get a better sense of what the game is all about. But yeah, obviously the best way to get familiar with the game is to play it, so sign up for the beta on our website.
Well, thank you, Carter, for your time.
Yeah, thanks.
And thank you guys out there for listening. I hoped that you enjoyed this interview and that we were able to help you with your gigantic IQ. Level up, friends.
Thanks.